Morning, class. I'd like to welcome you to today's class.
Morning,
And
sir.
thank you. Happy New Year to the entire class. I wish you a blissful year and success in all your endeavors.
Amen, sir.
Okay, so I want to believe that you've not totally put away all that we learned before the holidays. And we're back to work now, and business has fully resumed. So kindly tune your mind back as we journey with the remaining parts of the semester. Okay, so once again, I welcome you. And straight away, we continue from where we stopped in our last class. We started discussing sources of Nigerian law. And the first one we are on is the Nigerian legislation. And then we've dealt with that to the point of identifying the various types of legislation in Nigeria. And then we were supposed to look at the legislative process. Ordinarily, I ought to have just touched this on a light note and move on to the next topic because we dealt extensively with it when you were in 100 level. But we also understand that now that you're in 100 level, 200 level, there are direct entry students who are joining you. So it makes it compulsory for us to teach the process as if you've not had any encounter with the process before. So just like you notice that some of the topics that you dealt with in your legal system will also resurface at your second year, especially in Nigerian legal system. The purpose is to cater for the direct entry students. So we'll take it off from there, and then we hope that they will be able to, flow in the same range. Now, we're talking about legislative process, how what we refer to as Nigerian legislation is vetted. And before any law can be enacted, there are procedures that are laid down by the various laws in a land to guide how they are to be enacted. And that is what we mean by legislative process. And the overall aim of this particular aspect of the lecture is to provide you with the basic understanding of the process of lawmaking in Nigeria. And then we're particular about making of legislation. Also, we'll also say the rationale for legislation and the processes or stages that that is involved before a law is enacted. So at the end of the lecture, you will be expected to know and also be able to discuss in detail the process of lawmaking in Nigeria, and then the reasons for legislation, and also discuss the legislative proposals that are made and how eventually different types of legislation are vetted. Now, before we look at the processes we first of all need to ask ourselves on the rationale for legislation. Why is legislation necessary? And its importance in a modern society like ours. Several reasons have been outlined in various texts and lectures, but we're just going to look at the following, which we consider as the most dominant of them all. The number one reason for legislation is the ever-changing nature of the modern society.
Ma?
That is common and constant is that the world is revolving, is moving. And so also are the happenings within the society. And when the society is making progress, there's bound to be changes in every aspect of the society. Maybe by, a lot of new things, especially in the era of the jet age that we're in. Things are fast, moving so fast to the point that if the state is unable to put machinery in motion to meet up with the pace, then it may become an issue for the society to be able to run effectively. So in order for the state to be able to meet up with the changes in the society, making of laws or legislations becomes very necessary. Another reason is the consistent advances in science and technology. Now, the first aspect I talked about may apply to every aspect of our life as a people. While the second, which I said, has to do with the changes in science and technology. It's becoming one area that it's moving very fast. Now there are a series of technologies that are being introduced. There are series of development in science that requires that new legislation be made. Now, apart from those two, another reason for legislation is the constant change in government policies. Every government that comes into power, we definitely have their own policies that they want to engage. And in engaging some of these policies, there will be need for some legal framework to be put in place in order for those policies to be able to thrive. So therefore, if those policies must thrive, then there must be law in place to facilitate the process. Some time ago, the government introduced the student loan. And you recall that the National Assembly had to quickly move into action to enact a legislation on that. So those are the things that we're talking about, because government has to run on the provision of the law, because elected officials do not in any way run their own affairs the way they want it. Rather, it must be in accordance with the provision that the law has established over time. So, therefore, that is another valid reason why legislation is necessary. Another reason that we're going to mention in this class is to maintain law and order and preserve the moral fabric of the society. We often maintain that a community or a society that does not have law, there will not be offenses therein. So, for there to be order in a society, for there to be peace and all the necessary amenities that a society needs to survive, there must be law. And as the society changes, the law is also expected to change alongside with it. The fifth one reason for legislation is regulation of different aspects of our modern life. Regulation of different aspects of modern life. Like all that we've been saying, they're not also far from this point because things are changing. And then, like in the US, at least prior to this time, or even as at this time, parents were more like at liberty to change the sex of their children to another because of the fact that they believe that human rights extend to you doing what you want or what you desire to your own body. So these are modern times where people, human beings, will choose to get married to their dogs. They choose to get married to trees and so many other things like that. So in that form, it becomes very important for the state to generate laws that will be able to manage the affairs of men in the society. So that is just about 5 of those reasons. But of course, the reasons for lawmaking are quite extensive, and we cannot in any way exhaust all of it. So we are just going to limit, for the purpose of our discussion, we'll limit it to this 5. So if we base our submission on these 5 alone, you discover that it is very important for law to continually remain in the society because it is an indispensable tool for governance in any modern society. The modern society does not embrace arbitrary rule or decisions. Consequently, they must rule according to the provision of the law. So that is for that. Now, so we will look generally into the legislative process. But also before we do that, there are types of legislation. In our last class, we did mention that, we have acts, laws, decrees, edicts, bylaw, and so on and so forth. Now, it is, important to note in this class that there are other types that we can also state. One of it may be public general acts. Of course, these are acts that applies to everyone within their scope. Okay? Just like we have the criminal code, the penal code, these at their different locations or jurisdiction or place of existence, they apply to everyone within their jurisdiction. So, note in addition to what we discussed earlier, that we have, generally we say we have acts, but we are being specific now to say that there are public general acts. Also, we also have private acts. I mean act as in ACT. And these are acts that apply to specific people or persons or bodies. For instance, such legislation may apply to individuals. It may also apply to private or private corporations, statutory bodies, and other local authorities. For example, the Nigerian Army is an entity on its own within the Nigerian system. If an act is made, particularly for the armed forces, it can be tagged a private act. So, like I said before, moving from that premise that we have acts, we are moving forward to say that they are in classification. We have public general acts and also private acts. We also have local acts. This type of legislation focuses on particular localities or communities. So, therefore, these are the various divisions of law that exist. Example of a local act is in Nigeria is the Northeast Development Commission Establishment Act of 2017. Northeast Development Commission Establishment Act of 2017. This particular act, being a local act, was established to address, among other things, poverty, illiteracy, and ecological problems, and other developmental challenges in the northeast states of Nigeria. So, from time to time, as the need of the society arises, laws are made to cater for all of that. But like I said, these are the different types. Another one we can add to the list is consolidating acts. Consolidating acts. This is, okay, Babalola, you have a question? Please, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Sorry, when you were talking about the private act, you gave an example of the military. Now, if there's an addition to the acts they have right now, do they have to go through the legislation before they can actually put it under their own act? Does he have to go through that process? Because I know, sorry, sir, because I noticed that if they want to call of the military, the kind of the legal process they take them through, I think is quite different from the normal court process.
They don't go through court process. They have their own established system. And their own, also that they have powers to make laws, acts, subsidiary acts. What we are saying is that in as much as they are empowered to do so, they have their own procedure in making such laws. And when the laws are established, the law also forms part of our jurisprudence or part of our laws. But it's of a specific application to the military. Do you get the point?
Of the legislation and I got you, sir. But what I'm saying is, for the ratification of any law, you said we still have to go through the legislative arm of the government. For these acts, do they need to go through that as well?
Don't get it mixed up. When the law establishes a body, especially bodies that are empowered to make subsidiary legislation. The lawmaking body has already given that power to do so in line with some certain limitations. So they may not need to go through the route of going to the National Assembly, but they must satisfy the conditions that may have been stipulated.
Okay, I got you now, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Collins, can we have you?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
When you were talking about the local act, you said that it focuses on a particular locality or communities, and you mentioned the Northeast Development Establishment, the Northeast Development Commission Establishment Act of 2017.
Yes.
I was wondering if we could put the Niger Delta Development Commission under this as another example, sir.
Very well. It can as well be applied. Okay. All right. Thank you for those questions. So we move on. Let's move on to the lawmaking process now, which will give us pure understanding of what we're talking about. So you got Deborah. Okay, there's a Deborah. Please go ahead, ask your question before we move on.
Sir, you didn't complete consolidating acts. Consolidating acts. Yes, consolidating acts.
Okay, maybe because of the questions. Okay. So the Consolidating Act is a legislation that reenacts an earlier legislation which with maybe possible modifications and adjustment in order to make the legislation to be more coherent. So Consolidating Act reenacts an earlier legislations with modifications and adjustment in order to make the legislation to be a better law. So it's another kind or types of legislation. Okay, so having established all of that, we move on to
Give example. Sir, please can you give example?
well, what's I may not be able to lay my hand on any at the moment, but if I'll look into that and make one available to the class. Is that taking? But there are different types of acts like that. But like I said, I will look into it and get an example for the class. So now let's move on to the legislative process. Now, what we call legislation, or what becomes legislation, begins with what is known as legislative proposal. The proposal is a mere submission, a mere idea, and consequently, it translates into a bill. So it's just like a conception in-house, and then it's translated into a bill, and the bill is then presented to Parliament. Okay, Parliament, where it will undergo a process of scrutiny and debate before it eventually becomes law. So first of all, what leads to a law begins by legislative proposals, or which we can literally say legislative ideas. Then it becomes a bill and goes into the Parliament for the actual process of law making. So what is the foundation of a proposal? What form does it take? Now, like I said before, it may be an idea. It need not take a particular, form, but it is expected that it needs to contain the subject that the proposer seeks to to work on, or the remedy, or whatever it is that the law that the person is conceiving seek to address. And then one more thing we need to note is that what the legislative proposer seeks to address must be specifically stated, because without its existence, it will be difficult to form a proper bill. So, and when the proposal has been developed, it is then submitted to a relevant government department or agency for further action. For example, if you are having an idea relating to maybe management of, which example can I readily give now? Things that has to do with our climate, for example, or managing the atmosphere. And then you are, as a citizen, you are having a proposal, a legislative proposal. And then you have formulated something like a proposal, and what the proposal, if eventually translate into law, seeks to attend to. There is always agency of government that covers every subject. And those agencies of government, by virtue of their position and composition, they usually have experts who are knowledgeable in these areas, who may be able to assist in working on the proposal to ensure that it's in a form that can consequently metamorphose into a law. So these government bodies consider what those legislative proposals are saying, scrutinize, add or delete, and then it consequently develop into a legislative bill, which of course is extensively articulated at Parliament before it can become a law. So it therefore means that before anybody will just come up with a bill, agencies of government with specialized duty on such area must, at one point or the other, provide an input so that whatever technicalities that need to be imputed, or submissions, or salient issues that need to be imputed therein, must be there, so that it is not at the lawmaking procedure in the House that those issues are now being added, even though the entire process may also still welcome such amendment, such addition, chiseling, removing, adding, and all of that. But it is believed that if that particular agency of government is able to look into it, then it will become a better document that the Parliament can work with. So, therefore, once the bill is created, now it's also important for us to know that the procedure for this lawmaking that we're talking about is contained in the Constitution of Nigeria. Look at section 58, 1 to 5, section 59, 1 to 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria contains the processes that usually, initiate the introduction of a bill into the two houses that are duty bound to make laws for the nation. So, and that's why we are saying that all of those laws, the proposed laws, must meet or follow the laid down procedure. And if it must become a law, it must satisfy those conditions that the procedure must have stipulated. One of it is that for any bill to become law, that bill is expected to have gone through both houses of parliament and then receive government, the presidential assent before it can, become a law. So now let's say that from legislative proposal to a bill, the bill now has gone into the parliament. The stages in parliament is what we now want to look at. The first stage we are going to look at is the presentations and reading stage. Presentation and reading stage. Now, at this stage, the clerk of the house has a duty to give notice of the intending bill to members of the chambers. For example, maybe in cases of public bill, the clerk must publish a copy of the bill in an official gazette and send a copy to every member of the relevant chamber. While for a private bill, the member that is sponsoring the bill, we also make it available to the entire members of the system. Now, when the bill has been published, that is a process of officially making it known or officially presenting it to the House that this is a bill that is to be considered. Then the bill is read in the House. The clerk of the House is duty bound to read the title of the bill, and he also needs to provide a brief statement on what the bill aimed to achieve. That's why I said that even when it comes like a place of legislative proposal, the focus is what does the proposal seek to solve. So the clerk of the house will need to state that. And then after reading the title and stating what the bill seeks to achieve, then it is submitted to the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, depending on which chamber the bill is first presented. So, simply put, the purpose of this stage, which is the presentation and first reading, is to inform the legislators of the bill that has been introduced and to get them to familiarize themselves with the subject matter. And at this stage, there is no discussion whatsoever. So it's more or less like giving notice to individual. Now, I must warn at this stage that when you are answering questions on things like this, it is important for you to state what is key per each of these stages, because that is what shows your understanding of the topic and the answer that you are providing. Some people just go and talk about presentation stage. It's a stage where you present it. What is the purpose of presentation? What is the purpose of reading it? It must be contained in any valid answer. So that covers the first reading. For the second reading, at this stage of the legislative process, the House will debate on the merits of the bill. That one, is this bill necessary? Don't we have provisions in our laws that cater for this aspect that is being addressed by the bill? Will it not be a duplication of efforts? These are issues that are trashed at this stage. But if it is believed that, oh, the bill has a merit, then the process will move forward by allowing the member that is sponsoring the bill, if it is a private bill, to move a motion for the bill to be read for the second time. The member, the first reading, talks about the heading, the title, and what the bill seeks to achieve. So the second reading here, after a motion has been moved, of course, in the process of moving the motion, the member in question would also highlight the objective of the bill. It's always very crucial. And then, when the motion has been moved, upon reading and stating the objective, there is need for the motion to be seconded. Seconded in the sense that, oh, we move the motion that it should be read for the second time, there must be a seconder, which must be from a legislator in the floor of the chambers. And where the motion is not seconded, it is considered rejected. And then it will not proceed to the second reading. If the motion is supported, it is an evidence that, oh, there is substance in it. So therefore, let's work towards making it a bill, a law, to better the lot of the country. So basically, once the bill is seconded, the process continues. But if it is not seconded, that means the bill is considered as rejected. And then that is the end of that legislative idea. But if it is supported, the bill is then debated further by members of the chambers and put a vote on whether it should proceed to what we call the committee stage. At the committee stage is another crucial stage in the lawmaking process. So that committee stage is provided for further consideration. If the vote does not approve it for committee stage, the bill cannot be debated until same is reintroduced again later. So, at the stage of the second reading, the legislators have a duty to debate on the general principle of the bill and ask relevant questions. And then, at that stage, legislators may also provide additional substance, or the legislator may choose to even alter what has been presented. Consequently, that there can be changes made to the bill any form of error. So, at the conclusion of this stage, the bill is referred to the standing committee of the House, which has oversight function in respect of the subject matter that the bill is seeking to achieve. So the committee is expected to debate, discuss more extensively, because they are deemed to have knowledge in that aspect of our life. And then they present their recommendation. So that is for the second reading. We have said that if the bill is seconded and there is perceived to be desired substance in it, it moves to the committee stage. So we look at the committee stage now. After the second reading comes the committee stage, like I said earlier. At the committee stage, the committee works to further add value to the bill. And then it may hold a public hearing to engage critical stakeholders and the public. For example, if the bill has to do with education, for example, the bill is referred to either the House Committee on Education, people who are perceived to have vast knowledge about the subject. And then the committee stage, they make it open for public engagements. Because the truth of the matter remains that it is not all the people that know about education that are in the House or that forms parts of the committee. Therefore, stakeholders, lecturers in the society, professors, or people who have dedicated so much time over the years to the development of education, they will definitely have something to offer. And then, after the debate, suggestions are made, amendment, recommendation to the bill, if any, and then they report back to the relevant chambers for further consideration. So the committee stage, so to speak, is to put an expert's eyes on the entire process. When you're talking about aviation, it is not every member of the House who is knowledgeable about aviation. So when such bills are subjected to committees with such expertise, who then consult other stakeholders within the society, they are able to beef up the bill to ensure that proper things are done, so that at the end of the day, the bill is able to achieve the purpose for which it is presented at all. So once the bill has been debated on by the committee, the bill is sent back to the House. And then at that stage, a motion may be passed for the bill to be read for a third time. Okay? At this committee stage, note that, like I said, modification, amendment can be made. And then submission is made that, or it is agreed by the House that the bill should move to the third reading, which is also known as the passage stage. At the third reading stage, the bill is read again. Somebody may be wondering, why do they have to read the bill? Is it that they don't know everything that is in it? It is always required by procedure that the bill is read again. And remember to be expected to pass it. Now, at this point, a clean copy of the bill containing all the amendments will be produced and signed by the clerk of either the House of Assembly, House of Representatives or the Senate. When the bill is endorsed by them, then it is also sent to the other chamber, depending on where the bill originated from. It's sent to the other chamber for what they call concurrence. In engaging in that, the House will also need to go through the required procedure to either concur with what has been done by the originating House. So, once that is done, the approval of that chamber is expected. the receiving chamber may accept the proposed legislation as received, at which point it will communicate its concurrence without amendment. That is, if the receiving house feels that, oh, what is expected has been done, then it can communicate that, oh, the amendment, the structure, everything is okay. But if it does not agree with what has been done, they can also seek to make amendments. So what they do then is that the standing committee of that particular receiving house can have what we call harmonization conference with the other committee, standing committee that may be, created by either of the two leadership or the leadership of the house, for them to reconcile the differences that must have been noticed. And then they further work on it to provide a better bill at the end of the day. So upon the harmonization process, and once the harmonization process is concluded, it is deemed that the bill has been passed at that stage, but still requiring a very important aspect of the procedure, which is the assent or the vote stage. Okay, so what happens at this assent or the vote stage is where both chambers adopt the report of the harmonization committee, that is, that all is fine. The clerk of the originating chamber will produce a clean copy of the harmonized bill and transmit same to the president of the nation for his assent. Mind you, until that assent is given, there is no law. So that talks about the position or the importance of the presidential assent. So once the president has given his blessing and what is technically known as assent, then such bill has automatically become a law. So at this assent stage, the president is allowed to do either of two things, either to approve it or reject it. During the times of President Buhari, I think there were cases like that where the president refused to give assent to the bill that was sent by the National Assembly. But if the assembly feels that the president ought to have communicated his either rejection or assent, and he fails to do it, the National Assembly can veto or can override the president by a 2/3 majority of the two houses voting to pass the bill into law. So if there's a joint session and 2/3 of the entire house agree that the bill should become a law, automatically it becomes a law without the president's assent. Now, notice that since the Fourth Republic of Nigeria, this has only successfully been done sometime in June 2000, where the National Assembly successfully overturned President Olusegun Obasanjo's veto on the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Bill. Of course, for whatever reason, the president may feel that such is not needed, but the National Assembly, which is a representation of the people of Nigeria, of the various constituencies in all the states, feels that it is necessary that the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Bill must come to place. Okay? But note that the position we have just established above does not apply to all bills. When proposing constitutional amendment, the amendments bill must be supported by a two-thirds majority of the members of each chamber of the National Assembly before it can be read for a third time. Okay? But whichever position applies, different rules may govern some specific bill that is to be presented to the House. But what we are saying is that the president assent is important, but where the president decides to withhold, the National Assembly may do the needful. And then in places of emergency, maybe when it relates to emergency or something that is of a national interest, maybe the issue of passing of budget and all of that, without which the system cannot properly run, the National Assembly may abridge procedure or suspend procedure to attend to, such matters as may become necessary. But what we are saying is that this entire procedure that we have highlighted must be conformed with before the process of lawmaking is deemed to be completed. And that is what the legislative process is all about. I noticed that some of us have been raising their hands. Probably they want to make contribution or ask questions. Please, the floor is open for you to do that before we proceed in our lecture.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask concerning the private bill, like the legislative process for private bill, like does the president also the president assent also is it needed for the private bill, or who's going to give his assent for the private bill?
The president's assent is also important for the private bill.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yes, next. If you've asked your question, you can please lower your hand so that we know those who are waiting.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so based on the explanation you gave, you said that if the president withholds his assent,
Yeah.
he fails to communicate it within 30 days, that the National Assembly in a joint sitting. Okay, so my
Did I
question is
mention 30 days to you? That's what you have read.
okay, sir.
It's allowed.
Okay. My question is now that what if the president communicated his rejection of the bill? Can the National Assembly still pass the bill with a two-thirds majority, like in a joint sitting, after the president has already rejected it?
Okay. Now, one thing you must note is that, thank you for that question. One thing we must note in all of this is that it is believed that both the president and the honorable members at the National Assembly, they are fighting for the good of Nigeria. So when the president is refusing assent, he will definitely have his reasons. So the reasons are also communicated to the House. It's very possible that the House may not have taken cognizance of the thing that the president is pointing out. So sometimes the National Assembly may reason with the president on the reason he has provided for not giving assent. If it is a genuine reason, the House may go ahead to make amend depending on what the objection of the president is all about. But if the National Assembly considered the reason as not sufficient, they can go ahead and pass it into law by that two-third majority of the two houses. Okay? I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right.
I'm sorry, sir, I have a question on what
Okay,
you just
before you ask your question, let me just make a comment. It's good that we always tell you what you need to do, what you need to know. Because when you are told and you still choose to go against it, you may as well face the consequences that may come up. Now, I've been looking at the attendance of this class since we started. It has practically remained stagnant on 1 point. For a class that is almost 400, you are not up to 300 on this platform. Tell your classmates to attend lectures. Personally, I will not take any form of, it was the day I was not in class that test took place, or that you asked this question, that you did this, and all of that. And I know that many people will come up with plenty of reasonable and unreasonable lies, but sometimes you may not be able to have your way. So I think have a word or small, whatever quantity of a word is sufficient for the wise. Yes, please go on with your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. In this case that you gave, that they do not feel like the president's reason is sufficient and they still pass the bill into law with two-third majority, do they have to wait for 30 days to elapse, or they just pass it?
They have to wait. The procedure is important. The procedure is important. For any of those things to be valid, the procedure must be duly followed. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Please, sir, based on the question that the last persons asked, so when the president refuses to sign the bill and it returns back to the House for amendments, if they're able to reason with his conditions and reasons, what kind of process are they going to be doing again? Like, are they going to start from the first reading stage or just a general amendment?
No, they will just focus on what the president must have raised. There may just be need for a committee to sit on it, or there may just be need for the entire assembly to just, so what we agree, let's expunge this and leave this.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir.
So I have a
Yes,
question.
please.
I have a question. I have a comment regarding a question that one of my colleagues asked earlier concerning the Consolidating Act example. So I have one, but I don't know if it's correct. I came across the Company and Allied Matters Act of 2020, which replaced the older KAMA of 1990. I don't know if this is a good enough example for that.
Yes, we can take that. We can take that. Then sometimes when those laws are produced like that, they can also add consolidating acts. Okay? But what we are saying about consolidating act is that it reenacts an earlier law with modification. You know that I wanted to actually say this at that time, but I want to be very careful so that you don't misconstrue my position. You know, the Constitution has been amended several times. And when it's amended, some parts are deleted, some are added. And then we say it's as amended. What is actually taking place is like a reconsolidation of the act of the law. Okay, but we may not apply this Consolidation Act to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria because it is the #1 law. Okay, but we may apply it often frequently on other subsidiary acts or other acts. Yes, quickly, next person.
You said that this procedure you just gave us now does not apply to all kinds of bill. For example, constitutional amendment. So I didn't really get what you said. Did you say that it only needs 2/3 majority of the both houses for constitutional amendments?
What I said is that before any constitutional amendment can be read for the 3rd time, it is required that it must be supported by a 2/3 majority of members of each chamber. Okay? Or members of 2 chambers. Now, that's because it affects the Constitution. The 2 chambers, the 2/3 majority at each of them is very important. Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other question?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask a question about the committee stage. There are some bills that are very controversial and then they require a lot of debates, probably from different stakeholders in the community or in the country. Let me put it that way. How does the legislature decide what to do based on everything that has been done in the committee stage? If the committee rejects it, do they follow their decision? Or if the committee is very divided, how does the legislature decide if they are to proceed or to stagnate the bill?
Well, I think the reports will determine what the leadership of the House will do after the committee must have submitted their reports. I was thinking maybe what you wanted to ask is, how does the committee determine key stakeholders to debate those controversial bills at the Senate, at the committee stage? It's simple. As Nigerians, we know experts in some issues. For example, we're talking about taxation in Nigeria now. And I'm looking for renowned scholars who have been tested and known for issues, laws on taxation. It will not be difficult to find A.O. Sonny, SAN, as one. In different other fields like that, there are renowned professionals. Okay? So, but at the end of the day, whatever controversy ensue in the course of the committee stage, there is always going to be a report that will be generated, which may tilt towards either the majority favoring the bill or the otherwise. But at the end of the day, the leadership of the House will determine what is to be done by reason of the report that is submitted. Yes, any other question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Actually, sir, I have a
What would you say is the current stage in the tax bill in the National Assembly currently?
I'm not following that. If you are following it, you can tell us. I'm not following.
I'm not following it, sir. Well, I'm following it not to the extent that I'm aware of their private things, sir.
Okay. All right. Next person.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I actually have a question, sir.
Yes, that's why we are here. Go ahead.
My question is based on the committee stage. Upon the committee bringing their report to the House, which will enable them to also read it to the House again for the 3rd time, I wanted to ask, if they were going to vote before taking it to the president, does it involve two-third majority of the house, or they'll just take a random vote and whoever has the highest votes, if the people that choose for it to move to the next stage, then it moves, or it just remains at that stage?
Are you talking about the committee stage alone, or you have moved to the reading and passage stage?
Reading and passing, sir.
Well, once the committee is done with their work, they put into a general vote. Okay, and then the committee report and all of that will have determined where or how the bill is going to turn out. But sometimes they put it to a vote, maybe a voice vote, and the loudest or the one that is in support may go for it. Okay, but it's when we said that if there is more some form of disagreement on it, especially when the two houses may have to look at it, then there may be need for harmonization committee again or conference to look at it before the president may eventually pass the bill by vote. Is that taking?
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Yes, any other person? I can see many hands.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. So, there was this recent development in CBN. So I heard
In
I
where?
thought that the CBN, sir.
CBN.
So they have CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So they sacked about 1,000 employees. So the committee stage that was set up by the National Assembly, they gave their reason, and the reason was that it was a public, um, like it was as a result of a public this thing. So my question is this, sir. What is your take on that the matter?
I was not part of the process. I really do not know exactly what you are drawing now. You didn't even give us full information of what happened, and you said something distinct. How will I know? Eh? If you have a full brief
Actually,
of
what
what
happened there
happened,
was that I think it was as a result of ongoing. Okay. So
was
what
what?
happened there was that I think it was as a result, sir.
I'm not, your connections are not very okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay. So I think it was as a result of the ongoing case of Gordon Emefiele, the past governor of CBN. So they sacked about 1,000 members, and the reason was that it was a popular, it was as a result of a popular accent. Let me put it that way, popular accent. So I want to know, why did they sack those 1,000 members? Because we cannot just sack 1,000 members
1,000
and give
member or 1,000 staff
1,000 staff.
of CBN.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's with them? That is it that they are too much or what?
It's not that they are too much. You just sack them because it was a public accent stuff that people commented to it. And I don't think that's this thing.
I don't understand what you are saying, no. And your line is not clear. Let's take another person. You can call me, please. Next person.
Okay,
Good
sir.
afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My question is
So I have
on
a
this final.
question.
these final stages of lawmaking, the presidential assent, when a bill is rejected by the president and the necessary amendment has been made by the House, do they have to send it back to the president for his assent, or it's
Yeah.
automatically become a law?
Yes, you still need to send it. That's the proper procedure.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Sir, please I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Naomi.
The preliminary proposal of a bill, is it part of the stages or is just a preliminary exercise?
It's also a state, but not referred to. It can because that is the origin. It's also a stage on its own, but
Sir.
when we're talking about reading stage, second reading stage, and all of that, if you really want to classify it, that process of developing it is also a stage.
All right, sir. And sir, please, can we get the recordings of this class immediately after the class has ended? Because I had network glitches throughout the class and I wasn't even able to get most
Oh,
of the things that you said.
okay, all my lectures are being recorded to my YouTube page. Okay?
All right.
Both this course and all the courses that are hosted on my Zoom platform. So you can, as we're speaking now,
All
it's
right.
live there. So when we are done, you can go there. I may send you.
Sir, please, what's your YouTube name?
You said what?
I said, sir.
Your YouTube name.
OTBJIL.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I'll forward the link to the group, the chat short now. Yeah, next person.
Okay, sir. If after 30 days, the bill is not supported by the third of the House, and can the president still give his actions, or will the bill be considered not appointed?
Come again, please.
If after 30 days, and the bill is not supported by the third of the House, can the president still give his actions?
He said after 30 days.
Yes. The bill is not supported by two-thirds of the House.
No, you are getting it wrong. Once the bill has passed the third stage and approved at that stage, it is sent to the president. And the president is either to give his consent or reject it within 30 days.
Okay.
Not the National Assembly. Do you get?
Okay.
Yes.
So if it did not give his access within that 30 days, the bill is considered the bill will not be approved.
It will not. So it will have to go back to the House for them to veto the president, or make amendment based on whatever reason the president must have provided, and send it back to the president again.
Okay,
Do you understand now?
yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, any other questions?
Sir, I have a question.
You guys are taking almost 30 minutes for question, but it's okay. Let's go ahead. That's part of the learning.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
For the final stage, can the governor give the assets or refuse to sign the bill apart from the president?
No, when it has to do with the federal, is when the president is involved. But if it is a state matter, it's all about the governor and his legislature at that level. Do you get?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Okay.
please, the rejection of
Just a
the
minute.
bill
Just a
and
minute. I've just sent the link to the YouTube channel to the chat box now. So for those that are interested, you may subscribe to it or go and watch the lesson there, maybe anytime you are free. Okay?
thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's go on with your question.
The withholding of all right, sir. The withholding of an asset, like the president does not reject it or does not approve it, and the outright rejection of a bill, are they the same thing?
Come again.
Or what are the consequences for each, sir?
Or if the president refuses his assent, if the president refuses his assent,
Towards his assent, like, or he withhold his assent and rejection, like he does not say anything about the bill, and 30 days has been exceeded,
and
or when
then the
he
National
rejects,
Assembly can go ahead and veto
or
the.
when he sends a outright
No, the usual thing is that if the president refuses to give his assent after 30 days, the National Assembly may go back and pass it into law by two-thirds majority. Do you understand? But if the president sends his rejection, he is also going to provide reasons for the rejection, which the House is also expected to work on. That's why I said that both the president and the legislature are working towards the good of the nation. So, whatever reason that the president must have given, of course, it will be in good faith. The National Assembly can consider it, remote the bill, and send it back to the president for assent. Are we okay now?
Sorry, sir, please, can you come again? My network cut me out.
Okay. Okay, I said if the president fails to give assent within 30 days, the National Assembly can take the initiative to pass it into law by two-thirds majority. But I said if the president is sending a rejection note, he will state his reasons. By stating his reasons, the National Assembly will work on the reasons and see how they can either make corrections and then send it back to the president. That's why I said that both the National Assembly and the president, they are both working for the good of the nation. So whatever reason the president must have stated, it may also be to correct the error that the National Assembly must have made. Are we okay now?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, please
I
come
have a question.
I'm going to open
explain two things.
I'm going to open the chat box now for you to be able to send in your attendance. So like I said, send the link for the YouTube link there so that you can access it. And the name of the YouTube is OTBJIL. OTBJIL, you will see it there. All right, so let's use the last 1 minute to take the last question before we go.
Okay, sir. Please let me
So
ask.
good afternoon, sir.
Sir, my question,
So, sir.
my question is on the last exam that was written. It's not on this topic, but it's still part of what you've taught us. So
It is
you
not
said,
everything that you are taught that will come out in the exams now.
yes, sir. I just want to ask. The
You want to
question
ask
you
what?
asked, I just want to get clarity on it. So you said that briefly identify and discuss those features of the Nigerian legal system that arose from Nigeria being a common law legal system. So I want to understand if you want us to just give the whole features of legal system, because my own understanding is that it's only duality that relates to Nigeria being a common law legal system. Like that's the only feature.
Go and read your book very well. What you are saying, you are not even very sure of what you are saying. You are mixing it up.
So I'm very sure.
Go and read your book and answer your question. You don't want me to be giving you answer to question here. We are not here for review. All right, so thank you very much. We have to bring the class to a close now, and we meet next tomorrow by the grace of God, and we consider the topic, the received English law, as one of the sources of Nigerian legacy of Nigerian law. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Okay.
It's over, so